Good afternoon.
Hello.
It's almost evening, isn't it?
5:01, yes.
Okay.
We're just still waiting for a few more people to join.
Perfect.
Hello.
Hey, Sherman.
Good evening, everyone. Just going to wait a few more moments, waiting for a few more people.
Ryan and Heidi, are we trying to contact the committee members who aren't on yet so we can get our quorum?
Yes, we are. Heidi's working on that now.
Okay, thank you.
I could hear you. Guys couldn't hear me. This is Dawn. I am here. My apologies. I was struggling with technology this afternoon.
Oh, no problem. For some reason I got in, but I couldn't get my video or audio to work. So I cut out and came in on another computer, which worked.
Hi, Dorothy.
Hey, Dawn.
You.
Good to see you.
Sorry about being late, everyone. And technology, right, Kevin? It's sometimes.
Well, you never know. And when you have kids on the computers too, I probably need to go upstairs and tell them to get off whatever they're on. It's
For 2 hours, poor things.
I'm literally on my phone Wi-Fi because my kids are on the. Yeah. No, I hear you. I'm on my phone Wi-Fi.
well, in the morning when they're on their virtual learning, it slows my work stuff way down.
Yep. Let me get the packet up. I apologize. I am late, everyone. I hate when that.
Well,
happens.
we're still waiting for a quorum, so.
Mr. Chair, we do have, I believe we have a quorum. Yes, we do. Mr. Gonzalez is physically present in the room with us.
Oh, good.
And the remaining are, and I believe, Heidi, this is everybody who.
Yes, we have
indicated they would
one
be here.
absent.
Excellent. Well, let's call the meeting to order then. And Heidi, if you could do a roll call, we'll get started.
Oh, roll call, Heidi. Roll call, Heidi.
Kevin Dayton,
Here.
Carmel York,
Here.
Dorothy Emerson,
Present.
Don Avila,
Present.
Adam Gonzalez, Ethlyn Thomas, Charmaine Jones.
Present.
Very good. We have a quorum. Is there anyone in person or on the Zoom call for a public comment period?
There is no written public comment, and there's nobody. There has been no other public comment.
All right, we will move on then to review and adoption of minutes of the November 4th, 2020 Oversight Committee meeting. Does anyone have any questions or comments about those minutes? Could I have a motion to approve in a second?
Don, have the motion to approve the November, I'm trying to get to the date, November 4th, 2020 Citizens Oversight Committee meeting minutes.
Is there a second?
A second. Carmel.
All in favor?
Aye.
Heidi, do we want to do a roll call on this or just do voice vote?
We'll do a roll call.
Okay.
1 second, sorry.
No problem.
All right, Kevin Dayton,
Aye.
Carmel York,
Aye.
Dorothy Emerson,
Aye.
Don Avila,
Aye.
Adam Gonzalez, Ethlyn Thomas, Charmaine Jones.
You're on mute.
Thank you. Aye.
All right,
Thank you.
those minutes are approved. Review and adoption of minutes of February 3rd, 2021 Oversight Committee meeting. Is there a motion and a second on approval of that?
I move to approve the minutes for February 3rd, 2021.
Okay, is there a second?
I will second the motion. Charmaine?
Any discussion? All right, a roll call on that.
Kevin Dayton,
Aye.
Irma York,
Aye.
Dorothy Emerson,
Aye.
Don Avila.
I wasn't present. Can I abstain?
Yes, you may. Ethlyn Thomas, Charmaine Jones,
Aye.
Adam Gonzalez.
Abstain.
Motion passes.
You can have a seat if you would
Do you
like.
want to do a community room? Because it's supposed to be in the community room. Do you want us to put a sign up?
I have a sign at the front door.
Okay, I can do that. Oh, it's on the front door?
Mhm.
Oh, it is? Okay.
We're in the middle of a meeting, so if you would mind having a seat, we're
You're
trying
having a Brown Act violation right now because you're having a meeting in a room that is not what is posted on the agenda. So,
like I would, if you're more than happy to comment during public comment, we're in the middle of a meeting. So if you please have a seat so we can conduct our meeting.
You're having a meeting in a room where it's not posted?
Mr. Dayton, if you would like to proceed.
Sure. Is there a member of the public who has arrived?
Yes, you have one member from the public.
All right. We will move on to, we're at item E here, review financials for Measure P and project updates. And Ryan, I will pass this to you for just to start this.
Okay. So there's a couple new faces that are maybe not new faces to some of you, but I'll introduce. I have Ralph Caputo. He is, hey Ralph. He is part of the firm RGM and Kramer, who we utilize as our bond program manager. He'll be here tonight to answer any questions that may come up. We also have Rick Mickey on the line. I'm not sure if his camera's on, but Rick is also one of the project managers involved in the day-to-day operations, and he's here for questions that may arise as well.
Hello, everybody.
So with that, Mr. Chair, how would you like me to proceed this? I know in the past we've gone through, you've liked to go through page turns, and if there was questions, would you like me to give you an overview?
Sure. Well, since we're reviewing financials, why don't we first just do a couple minute overview for everyone of the material you have up, and I'm assuming that this would be the page that says 2010 General Obligation Bond Measure P Overview.
That's correct. You're on item E.
This is the page 2 of the package. You'll see the pie charts and the bar chart there showing the breakdown of expenditures. Ryan, do you have any comments beyond what is here on the charts?
No other comments. Well, I guess just one comment. Measure P Series
Does
D.
anyone on the committee have any questions?
I guess he didn't hear you, Ryan.
Yeah, I was just saying that Measure P is, this is the last issuance of Measure P. Series D is the last issuance of that. And as you can see, these are the final remaining projects that are outlined there. And so that's why the page is a little bit shorter than you're going to see when we review Measure I, Series A and B.
Do committee members have any questions or comments? All right, this is, by the way, item E, review financials for measure P and project updates. Do we have any public comments about this?
Yes, I have a question.
Mr. Chair, there is one public comment. A member from the public who would like to comment.
All right, you have 3 minutes to make a comment. Go ahead.
Well, I'm just trying to understand what we're looking at here. The pages aren't numbered sequentially, so it's impossible for me to tell you. I can hold it up for the people who are in this room, but the first page appears to be of this packet appears to say General Obligation Bond Funding Program measures INT, May 5th, 2021. And then it's got discussion of pages 1 through something. And then it starts again at page 1 with measure I detailed project report. So I don't even know where this item ends and the next one begins. And then it starts at page 1 and it goes to page, it's like 20 something. And then it starts separately with the annual report. And I don't know what it is we're looking at because the pages on the agenda don't match up with the pages that I see in the packet. So could someone please walk me through the packet, at least know what we're looking at? I have the same problem online, by the way. The PDF page numbers do not match up with the page numbers that are printed, and sometimes there's multiple page numbers printed. For example, PDF page 26 is numbered both page 24 and page 4. So I have no idea how to even refer to the questions that I have for you. Can you help me with that? So I at least know what this item is, so I can ask you the questions for this item.
Would you like me to have?
Ryan, I'm going to pass this to you, but I have pulled up here the page. My PDF is pages 2 and 3. We've got the general obligation bond measure P overview, followed by the limited amount of activity that still remains under that bond measure. But I'll let you explain if there's a discrepancy between a written report and what I have pulled up here.
Page number for the packet. This is the page numbers of the reports that are provided to us by Key Analytics.
Okay.
The colored one is cumulative. It's what we have spent during the duration. And then these pages that start on page 1, that is vendor report detail, is basically just for the quarter only, January 1st to March 31st, 2021.
Thank you.
But if we're on item E, which is only pages 7 and 8, then, right? And that's PDF page 7 and 8, right?
That is correct.
Is there a third draft? On today's agenda.
Top of this is November 4th, 2020. Item 8, right?
I'm on today's agenda.
Okay,
Item E. I'm just asking, it says it starts at page 7.
That's so.
So we're gonna move on. So thank you for your comment.
I would like to make a comment.
uh,
I just don't know which is
well,
we're addressing here at this moment, which is item E. I'm just puzzled. And if the public doesn't know what it is you're talking about, it's really hard to ask questions. All I'm asking is can you just say for me which item and which pages we're addressing right now?
We are on item E, which is to review the financials for Measure P and project updates. And that is the item. Was that Heidi?
It starts on 6 and 7.
You're looking at the PDF packet?
Yes.
Correct.
Well, I have,
Okay, Mr. Dayton, if you would like to proceed.
the agenda says it starts on page 7, so it's only pages 7 and 8.
Ms. Erickson, can I please ask? you
I
not to
think
interrupt the
I think
meeting
the
here?
3 minutes have expired on the public comment, and I think staff once again, I'm looking at my electronic copy here that's available on the website for the public. So I'm not sure here what the discrepancy is. And I can't say anything more about it because I don't have the paper copy that's at the meeting in front of me. Why don't we move on to review warrant activity for Measure P, January 1st, 2021 and March 31st, 2021. And if you could, Ryan, tell everyone what's at that top of the page if we have page numbers that aren't consistent in the different formats.
Absolutely. So the document that we're looking at is titled 2010 Measure P Detailed Project Expenditure Backup from 1/1/2020 to 3/31/2020. And this is the vendor report detail.
That's not what page 9 says, point of order. Page 9
Does
says-
do the committee members all have this page up?
Yes.
Yes. Is anybody struggling to find the page that says 2010 General Obligation Bond Measure P Project Expenditure Backup?
Can you tell me what PDF page it is, please? Point of information.
Page 10 on the PDF.
All right, this item starts on page 9.
Ms. Erickson, we're trying to conduct a meeting here, so please refrain until public comment, please. Thank you.
Does anybody on the committee have any difficulty finding this page?
No.
Good. Okay. We will continue then. Ryan, why don't you begin with, well, we'll just go page by page here. And if you go to the next page, you'll see at the top, vendor report detail. And as it says as the agenda confirms, it says Measure P expenditures from 1/1/2021 to 3/31/2021. Do all committee members have that page up?
Yes.
Good. And we will begin. So what I'll do is I'll read off each page and you'll see the line items there. And committee members, if you have any, just the usual things we do. If you have any questions about the individual expenditures, keeping in mind the context here that we're ensuring here that all expenditures are meant for the purposes of Measure P as the voters approved it. Let us speak up and we'll get those questions answered. So page 1 of this report starts with Monterey High School new classrooms. Any questions? Next page. At the top, it says DMC Construction, Inc. Any questions? Page 3. And Ryan, this would probably be a good point here just for the public where we have the description, other cost project planning. If you could provide a little explanation of what those small expenditures are.
Yes. So Jody, can you give an explanation of on page 3? We're looking at the district administrative district office.
Right, so those admin costs can be salary and benefits. Also, we pay postage to mail out documents and reports and such.
I'm sorry, I can't hear the reporter.
Maybe if you want to come a little bit closer, Jody.
Sorry,
All right, we'll rearrange in the room here to get her a little
I
bit
think we're
closer.
losing you.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. Perfect, thank you.
Okay, so under the 8,000 district office admin costs, generally what you might see there is portions of salaries and benefits, postage costs for mailing out reports and other documents. General things like that, that we don't really expense to a specific project.
Overall general administration of the bond.
Exactly.
Thank you, Jody.
I hate to do this, but there was a letter to the editor last week of the Monterey Herald claiming that there were inappropriate expenses such as coffee and things like that. And I think we want to be other cost project planning. While these obviously aren't significant compared to the actual costs of doing construction work, this is the kind of thing that I think that the critics of the construction program are going to be honing in on. So I don't know if there's a way in the description to be a little more precise about this sort of thing. But you know, I think it's we may want to be a little bit more detailed about this. And yes, I understand that a lot of these items come up because to make sure that you segregate the bond expenditures from other expenditures, you're going to have these little expenses coming up here and there. But probably would be good to have a bit more detailed description of what these are in the future warrants. Do any other committee members have any comments about this?
Were these expenditures tied to a safety meeting or any kind of meeting that involves coordinating labor efficiently to get the job done on time? If coffee was used as a meeting or a gathering point for those things, it's a reasonable expense, but it's not an entitlement. So what is it?
I want to make sure I answer your question correctly. So the way that this particular set costs are administrative costs to run the program. So like Jody was explaining, it's different things that they're, you know, pins and paper, all of the costs that are associated with operating the bond program, they're categories under the administrative costs. So if there are things like that in there, they would be categorized as administrative costs.
Okay, yeah, if it's used as a tool or a part of for training or coordination or things that have to happen.
Correct.
It's just, but if it's something that's being done, I haven't worked any job sites where guys get free coffee when they show up.
No, that's
I
not
don't
something
think that's happening, but I just wanted to make it clear.
that's correct. That's not that's not what's happening. That's not part of it. That
Okay,
would be here.
cool.
Could you identify the speaker in the room?
Adam Gonzalez.
Oh, thank you.
What does the reference number indicate on this?
The reference number,
Third
the
column.
reference,
That'll be column 3.
that's the purchase requisition number. So that's the PO number.
Got it.
I anticipate, Ryan, eventually there will be a Public Records Act to try to find out the identity of each of these expenses. So probably good for the committee in the future to have a bit more detail on that. Because this is where the committee is going to be criticized for not overseeing things. And you know what, my feeling is if there's a meeting where various parties get together in a room to discuss matters, if there's a canister of coffee there, you know what, you're really getting into the nickel and dime world there. So I understand some people in the public might say, you know, no free coffee. But we need to make sure here that these little ones, since people are focusing on it, that everything here is on the up and up, because they're a little too general for us to actually see this.
Yeah, we'll look into looking at more detail for these particular items here.
Excellent. Do committee members have any more comments about this particular administrative cost section? All right, moving on to page 4, which is a continuation of administrative costs. With at the bottom, demolition at Monterey High School. Any questions on page 4? Moving on to page 5.
Information, could you just state the PDF page, please?
15 on the PDF, 15,
15.
13, and it says page 5. So 15 on the PDF, page 13 on the actual document. It's above the page 5 number, which is what's referenced on that particular report.
Great, thank you. That's very helpful.
Title is Vendor Report Detail Measure P Expenditures from 1/1/2021 to 3/31/2021. So if you can get to page 5 on that and just continue on in the series, we'll all be on the same page. All right, moving on to page 6.
I do have a question. What is retention as a description? Just curious on what retention means.
Could you identify what page she's referring to?
That is page 16 on the PDF, page 14 on the hard copy, and it also has page 6 on the very corner above the 14.
Oh, I can answer that, Ryan.
Sure, Ralph.
Yeah, so retention is with any public works contract. We take the total price of the contractor's contract and the district holds 5% retention till the very end of the project to make sure that the contractor pays all his bills and that there are no back charges or any outstanding items. Once the project's completed, the punch list is done, then we submit the contractor's retention for payment.
Okay. So, okay, main construction retention on the Marina High School culinary, the $540, perfect. Go below there, DSC/M&O transit spread holding, other costs. So that's, who, is that DC, is the D, who does that go to? Is that the same US Bank, right? US Bank underneath the heading, is that correct? Am I seeing that, am I understanding that correctly? Because it says US Bank and then it says, it's that, section, Marina High School culinary. We have one retention for main construction, that makes sense. And then other costs underneath there. I do agree with Kevin. We need to know kind of a little bit more about the other cost. I'm not too terribly worried about the amounts compared to some of the amounts, but it would be nice to know that little bit more detail. Make sense?
She, on the bottom of page 6, Jody, that we're looking at the project number 8244.
Okay, that's the spread holding.
Right. So that's the spread. That's the spread holding account. Once the projects are at end of year, that is actually moved to the project in which the costs were incurred. So that's why you're seeing it for this quarter.
Okay.
But it will be.
DSC stands for District Services Center.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. So, and then the spread holding means it's transferred. Okay. Thank you. I know that we have this question all the time, but I wasn't here the last meeting. So this is a new format for me, which I like a lot better. So thank you. Thank you. I apologize for my getting up to speed.
No problem, but you ask the same questions every time, and it's good to ask. I think whenever possible, and obviously there may be a space limitation on this. It's always good, I think, to have the words spelled out rather than acronyms, because the public may not know what these acronyms are, nor committee members. I also think on the retention, the contractor retention might be good to actually indicate ultimately who the retention payment is going to go to in the end, so that it's not so vague, if that's possible.
May I ask a question that might come up on a lot of pages? I just, I just want to get clarity, for instance, on the page we were just at, the document number 14 and the, I believe the PDF page 6. When you, for instance, take that last little box, the DSC/M&O, et cetera, spread holding, and you add up those numbers, you do get to the 3,605, but then the grand total, where is the rest of that total to come to the grand total?
Everything above.
So are you referring to at the bottom of that page where it says 1,899,000, that total?
Yep.
That is the total from all of these. So if you, all the previous pages, grand total up, that's the dollar amount there. From all of the expenditure reports or the detailed report you're looking at here, for each of those projects, that's the grand total when you combine all of them.
And so if I look at the one for US Bank above, shouldn't that be a smaller grand total number than the bottom one that we were just looking at, if that's just an accumulation total?
US Bank, let me take a look at that one.
So for instance, it says US Bank and we're on the same page, Marina High School Culinary. That grand total is 1.899 and the exact same figure as below in the grand total, the when you were just speaking about 8244 DSC. So if it's a running total, shouldn't that be a bigger number at the bottom?
Yeah, it looks like that grand total on that previous box is out of place. So we'll correct that, but it looks like that's just out of place. That's a good catch. Thank you.
I haven't added up any of these. I see the bulk of this is the 1,435,000 for the new classrooms to main construction. Is the committee comfortable that that grand total there at the end is the sum of everything?
Well, we'd like to see it corrected. Somebody have a calculator?
Well, yeah, I do. I guess I can do it here.
Kevin, if you want to move on, I can do the totaling and I can circle back around.
Sure, let's do that. Let's do that. Thank you.
Welcome.
All right, so we got the grand total there. Are there any committee questions about the reviewing the warrant activity for Measure P, January 1st, 2021 to March 31st, 2021? Are there any public comments on item F?
Mr. Chair, you do have one public comment.
All right, there are 3 minutes, and Heidi, if you could set the clock and go ahead, member of the public.
Quite a number of the entries, for example, page 12 says C total and then C3 total. Page 13, it says C total and the C8 total, C total, C7 total. What is the difference between all of that? If this committee had a question as to reference meaning purchase order number, why don't you just call it purchase order number? I have a question about what's on PDF page 17, but I don't think we're there yet, but I still haven't figured out exactly where we are. So when we get to PDF page 17, I do have a question. And then one comment with regard to the issue about coffee. I appreciate that the committee members have some concern about that, and I think you need to know that you are paying for coffee. These are public records, and I don't know why they haven't been provided to you. But RGM Kramer, who makes hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, and probably a lot more, and maybe we can see those in this report. In fact, in addition to having housing at the district office facility over on Kenyon Del Rey and Del Rey Oaks, also charges MPUSD for every pen, every pencil, every eraser, every gum cartridge, everything, including their coffee filters from Keurig and Nespresso, every single one, they charge to MPUSD on top of their regular charge, and then they charge a 10% overhead on top of that. Now, these are your project managers to whom you're paying hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, probably more than $1 million, but we'll see these numbers. And you do not know and have not been informed that you are paying for every single piece of their overhead, all of their equipment, all of their supplies, and every time they drink coffee, cha-ching, it is billed to MPUSD. So I think you need that information, and I think you need to know that you're also paying 10% on top of that. Every single piece of cup of coffee they drink, you not only pay for it, but then you pay them 10% overhead for ordering it and drinking it. These seem to be questions that I would think you would want to know about, and perhaps it sounds like the committee has not been informed of where that information is coming from, and I would urge you to ask questions and get it. So I look forward to the responses to the questions, and again, when we get to PDF page 17, I have more questions. Thank you.
Thank you. I think, Ryan, one thing that might be good for our next meeting, ultimately, I see the issue of the overhead expenditures. This is something that actually is an issue regarding the contract that the school district has done with a construction manager that's approved by the school board. I don't believe that we've ever been given a copy of that particular contract, but it might be good for us to have that at the next meeting to look over, and perhaps the committee might feel that a recommendation should be given to the board that there's some concern about this sort of thing. But as far as our authority over that particular issue of what kind of expenses are being billed to the school district, that is something that ultimately falls to the school board when they approve such contracts. So I'm interested in knowing more about this, but it is true that our committee does not have such information, and we've just been looking at line items in warrants. Do any other committee members have a concern or question about this?
Kevin, I've been doing some research through the California Association of Citizens Bond Oversight Committees, long title. And they do confirm that we should be looking at contracts. Of course, we can't negotiate contracts, but by looking at the contracts after the fact, we should have a better understanding of the kind of expenses that are coming through.
Yeah, I think Ryan, if you don't mind, maybe you could email to the committee this particular contract in question, or the contracts with the management firms, just so that we look at it. I don't know what the public thinks about such matters like that, so it would be interesting just to see what it is, and if public is concerned about that, that's something that the school board should take a look at. We were not involved in the negotiation or approval of those contracts.
Since I'm kind of new to this, is this something that occurs on a continual basis that we're just now becoming aware of? Ryan, is this part of what is normal procedures at the district or anywhere else where you're dealing with a private company that's working with the school district?
I'd have to look into that and get back to you, Ms. Emerson, on that.
Okay, I'm just kind of surprised to be hearing that we're getting this information right now. This is only my second meeting, so or third, whatever. So I would like to get more information if possible, please.
Absolutely.
All right. Any other questions from the committee on that? We are going to move on now to what's on the agenda as item G, review financials for Measure I and project updates. And for those who have various packages or PDFs or written things. This says 2018 general obligation bond measure in capitalized green letters, Measure I overview underneath. And you will see a pie chart and a bar chart there of the expenditures, and then something that you will recognize from previous meetings. You'll have a chart of the project activity within the fiscal year. So Ryan, maybe you could do a brief summary of the overview, and then we can go through these pages.
Absolutely. For Measure I, there are two series, Series A and Series B. Series A being the short-term financing, which is a smaller portion of the total initial issuance of about 118 million. Measure I, Series B, is a larger portion. This is the more active of the two bond programs. You will see quite a few more projects, and subsequently you will also see on the detailed expenditure report, that is where the bulk of the expenditures are currently.
Are there any questions here about the financials? Why don't we just look over the following pages here, going to the page that says 2018 general obligation bonds, Measure I, project activity for 2020-2021 fiscal year. The first project up being Crumpton Elementary School campus improvements. Are all committee members on the right page? All right, we will proceed. Why don't we go through these pages here and ask any questions that you see. So first page. Any questions? By the way, I want to note here, you'll notice a lot of HVAC work, paving, painting, that sort of thing. You know, there was a question about whether or not boring things are being funded by these bond measures. And I wouldn't consider any of this boring, but we've talked before about how wise it was for the school district to put all that investment into overhauling the HVAC ventilation systems. Of course, that decision was made before COVID came along, but good job on that one. Next page. This is the one on the top at 025, Marina Del Mar Preschool Campus Improvements. Once again, a lot of so-called boring expenditures here.
Kevin, this is Dawn, I just want to back up and let you know that the totals do match.
Oh, excellent. Thank you. Great. Dawn, thank you for confirming that.
Just to make sure I was doing this correctly. So yes, the totals do match. There is the question of previous, that very end where there was a grand total in a wrong spot. That makes it look a little funky, but it all adds up correctly.
Very good. I think just the key staff is when generating those reports, do what we do and look at this with a fine-tooth comb. And if something pops up in the wrong spot, get rid of it. Also, I think, for example, as we look through this current set of information, actually, we're okay on this. We're okay on this. There's page numbers at the bottom.
But I also want to point, for me, I don't know if this is helpful, but I also want to point out that this Measure I is the one that we came in with the new system. And if I notice, I look at, there's much more details like exterior paint, etc. on them versus the previous I, just because that was set up a long time ago. So there was a lot more questions on those quote other expenses. But I think with all the questions that we had in the previous meetings, it looks like a very clean document. So I want to just say thank you to the staff and all the report preparers, because it does look, they took all of the conversation and comments and it looks much more detailed is what we've requested. Just general comment.
No, that is correct. And this committee talked about that quite a bit in 2019 and 2020. The new software system was put into effect. The detail was put in. And boy, the difference is quite obvious on that.
Yep. And thank you. I know that was a lot of work. It's not easy to do that. So I appreciate it. And I think the public will
Thank you.
too. When I say I just mean as me as the public and I'm representing.
Right. Yes. On this particular page 5 of the report with Marina Del Mar preschool campus improvements at the top, any questions about this page and the expenditures on it? Next page. Starting with 055 Monterey High School campus improvements. All right, I will bring up, as I do at every meeting, expenditure number 055-8243 Monterey High School lower field. This is referring to the environmental review. Is that correct, Ryan?
I'd have to, that is part of the project. That's correct.
Yes. Any questions about that page?
I have one, but it's just a question of the time. It's for the C6 inspections for the accounting costs. Each cost is equal, but the time isn't. You know, one's from January 7th, and that incurred a cost, and then March 11th, which incurred a cost, and 7 days later incurred the same cost as March 11th and January 7th. What kind of accounting is, it says inspections. What kind of accounting is this? And how does it help efficiency and transparency? I'm sure it does, but I don't know what it is.
Mr. Gonzalez, so I can make sure I understand, what are you looking at? 'Cause I don't.
Okay, 055-8101 Monterey High School new classrooms. That's the page you're on, right? DMC construction.
No, we've moved to, we're on item G now. So we've moved to the measure I overview for the financials.
All right.
We're in this section
Right,
where
right.
That's okay, but we'd be happy to answer that question for you when we, you'll see similar things in the report that comes. So we'd be happy to address that.
all right, let's, I think for future agenda is just to make sure, let's make sure that the agenda items exactly match the wording of what's in the report, because we want the committee to all be on the same page for this.
That's kind of impossible with the way the reports are done and the ad pages for the agenda. So it's actually a harder ask than what you're asking for, Kevin. We're 2 pages off from a PDF. If someone wants to write it down, the page number on the PDF versus the page number that is the full packet, they're just 2 pages difference. And then you're referencing the highlight, the title of the page and the actual page number that's written in the middle. If someone would write it down for the public that it's physically there, it might be easier as a visual. I'm a visual learner, so maybe that might help, but it's pretty in sync. We shouldn't be so lost if we can just give maybe some visual cues. Because when you add the agenda, it's going to screw it up. There's no way to do, it's really hard to do. It's harder than you ask. It's harder than you think. Sorry, I cannot function. I need more coffee.
Understood. And what I'm doing for my method is I'm just scrolling and hitting, the button to move it to the next page, and there it is. And then when it ends, I know we're at the next agenda item.
Can I make a suggestion on that? Piggybacking on what Dawn is saying? Could it be possible that the agenda and the minutes are separate PDF documents? And all of this stuff is just one document, so the PDF pages line up with the hard copy pages?
Yes, we can send them to you in multiple documents.
Another thing that could be done as well is, you can do with Adobe Acrobat, you just have a number put down in the in one of the corners for the entire package. And then you can just refer to, the package as a whole and then say on page 43, and it's just 43 out of, the 200 pages. There's a few ways to do it. I think there seems to be an issue here with people not all being on the same page. So let's see if we can get that rectified.
So Kevin, just going back to the page, whatever one you are in this particular document, I don't see dates. I might be missing something because it's a little different in the format. So each of these items underneath, right? You have column A, B, C, and D. We usually have a date in there. Is there, am I missing something, or is there, can we put the date in for each of those expenditures so we know when they happen?
It's in the next page.
Yeah, what you're looking at here is actually just the accumulation of those expenditures. So there isn't one particular date.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay, so it's the summation. Okay, sorry about that. All right, and we go below. If I scroll now, if I scroll lower, we're going to see all the details. Okay, perfect. Sorry about that. I was adding totals, and that's my fault.
No problem. And this is actually something that we had asked about, I think, last year. So right now we're in item G, review the financials.
Yep.
And you remember that we wanted this presented in two different ways for cross-referencing purposes to be able to isolate expenditures for questions. I think Mr. Gonzalez got ahead up to, he was in the documents for section H. So that's why the dates came up there.
Nope, that's perfect. So I apologize. No, we did ask for this, and I do like it. Now it makes more sense. I was adding totals, and I obviously missed some key elements there. So thank you.
Right. I think what the purpose, as I look through this sort of thing, my thinking is there something here? There's an expenditure that would not be regarded as something authorized by Measure I. And you know what? One of the reasons why oversight committees were set up is because some school districts in the 1990s were taking this bond money and, believe it or not, siphoning it up for teacher salaries and other general fund purposes. And one of our roles here is to make sure that that sort of thing doesn't happen. And by having all these expenditures with the list of what the project is in general, this allows us to question something where we say, is this really something that's allowed under the language of the bond measure and under the education code?
Yep.
So for this page here, where it says page 5 at the bottom with the at the top saying 025 Marina Del Mar preschool campus improvements, any additional questions about this page? Moving on to the next page, where it says at the top 055 Monterey High School campus improvements. And this is the one where I just asked about the $278,000 in item number 23, which is presumably the environmental review.
Yep.
Any questions on page 6? Page 7. At the top, it says 056 Seaside High School campus improvements.
What is the E-rate funding match?
E-rate is, I can answer that. So E-rate is a federal program that funds certain technology types of expenditures for school districts. Part of that is for equipment and infrastructure. And so there's a formula, but essentially we apply for money and then the district has a match to the federal money that comes in. And that's what the E-rate match is there for that particular project.
Thank you.
For items 44 and 39, the spread holding, this is related to retention, contractor retention.
Spread holding is the costs that are associated, that are overall administrative costs. It could be project management. It could be different sorts of costs. They go into a spread holding account, and at the end of the project or at the end of the fiscal year, that is spread equally amongst the the projects based on the total expenses for that project. So it's not just one thing, it's multiple things that are included into that.
Okay.
Does that end up as other costs in the projects themselves?
Jody, how is that accounted for? What's the actual description that shows up? Do you recall off the top of your head?
I'm not certain on that. The spread holding usually is project number 8244. So other costs could be, but I would want to check on that and make sure. If you see though, like for instance, we have other costs under California Financial Services on page 5.
Yeah, we won't jump ahead. So I think it can. So the category may say other costs, but then it should have under the description, it may have a different description.
Right, but it is under the spread holding.
Right.
So like you said, it's a cost that has to be spread out across all current projects.
I hate to be a nitpicker about this. I always like it with spreadsheets. If possible, try to standardize the data entry formats. For example, you'll see under 056 Seaside High School campus improvements. Sometimes it says high school, sometimes it says HS. You'll see sports field, there's no space. I think it's good to always have, if possible, very clear, consistent terminology in all of the data entries.
We'll look into that. There may be a character limit on some of those fields, and that's why sometimes it's abbreviated to get some of the other more pertinent information in there. But we'll take a look at that.
Any questions on page 7? Says at the top, 056 Seaside High School campus improvements. All right. Any comments about what we just reviewed, which is item G, review financials for measure I and project updates?
Is he asking for public comment?
It seems like we're ready for public comment on this since no committee members spoke. So let's open it up for public comment. Is there public comment on item G?
Yes.
Yes, Mr. Chair, you have one public comment.
Okay, Heidi, if you could set the timer for 3 minutes and you may begin your public comment.
First, I never got any answers to the last set of questions I asked for the last item, so I'm not sure why I bother. So it seems to me you would want public comment, you've asked for it, but to be ignored does not send a good message at all. I hope the questions I asked before are answered, and I ask that these be answered. First, on this item, which is PDF page 17, it says page 15 on it. It's actually numbered page 3. Where are pages 1 and 2? It's a pretty simple question. Where are pages 1 and 2 for this item? Next question, on PDF page 20, which is also called page 6, there's a reference to paving and traffic land. Why is that called paving and traffic land? These titles are a real misnomer. Is that the parking project at Monterey High School? And what does traffic land mean? And second, on that same page, there's a reference to lower field. Now, I think that means the stadium project. Why is it given this euphemism of lower field when in fact it's the stadium and field project? And I believe that that is development that is far more than the EIR. And hopefully that will be clear later on. But Mr. Chair, I wanted to make sure that there was no confusion rather than you're just assuming it's the EIR. I think it is far more than that since a lot more has been spent in addition to the EIR. And then lastly, just for clarification, this approach to an agenda packet is makes absolutely no sense. I've never seen anything like it before. This agenda item, they're simply not identified, the agenda items in the packet or online. There is not, nowhere does the packet or the piece of paper that I'm looking at ever say agenda item A, B, C, D, or E. I've never seen a public agency that doesn't identify its agenda items in its packet. And online it's not even bookmarked, which is a very, very simple thing to do. So I don't know why the committee would want to spend so much time clarifying what page is what. But it seems to me that more time has been spent on that than on actually reviewing the financials. As to the financials, they seem to me to be very much pre-packaged and pre-delivered so that there really can be no questions for you to ask other than about page numbers, because there's no way someone's going to put on one of these entries payment for coffee and pencils and erasers. What's being put on these reports are going to be exactly whatever the staff knows will fit within the language of the bond measures. So there's really no questions you can ask about it. I think there's a lot more digging to be done if you really want to get to the true information. Thank you, and I ask that you answer my questions.
Well, regarding the page numbers, I think Ryan, we've had committee members point out we need to make this a little more clear. And I think if we're gonna have a first of all, I look at a lot of local government agendas, and many of the local governments, it's just together in a big package. To make it easy, we might want to have separation pages where it says, item F, and then you begin with the item F. Regarding the issue of the project activity chart starting with page 4, why does it start at page 4? What are the first 3 pages on that report?
So, well, let me take a look at that, but I just want to remind the committee or inform the committee so that public comment is a space for public comment. The committee is not obligated to answer any questions during public comment. Just wanted to remind the committee of that. And regarding the page number, I'm not sure, it may be something we have to get back
Well, I
to.
think we're gonna have to ask our, I'm gonna request that they don't put page numbers on theirs, and then we'll just page number throughout and then tag them. So we don't have the difference of different page numbers and different reports.
I can tell you that 1 and 2 is this is 1. The glossy pages that are colored in the maroon and the green are 1 and 2. And then they individually number the vendor report pages. And then when she starts with measure I, that's where she picks up page 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then the vendor detail starts with 1.
Thank you, Julie.
Let's move on to item H, which is review warrant activity for measure I, January 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2021. And you will see here, you should be on the page where it says at the top, 2018 general obligation bond measure, measure I, project expenditure backup. Are all committee members on that page?
That's PDF 22.
All good?
All right, unless the committee feels otherwise, we'll just do the usual thing of going page by page and asking about items if there are questions. So on the, you'll see a page 1 in the lower right-hand corner. And at the top, it says vendor report detail, measure I expenditures from 1/1/2021 to 3/31/2021. Begin. So we have here document management as a description. That's probably the sort of thing where we like to have a little bit more detail on that. What is document management typically?
I would have to take a look to give you detail on this particular expense. It can mean multiple different things. I'll have to take a look at this particular one, the expense. You're referring to the C1 main construction?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, you'll see actually every item on this is described as.
Or well,
document
all
management.
of these under main construction, right?
That's tied in with DSA, Ryan.
So these particular expenses are
The
DSA.
Marshall Elementary is the DSA
Okay,
fees that we paid for closing that out. And
perfect.
that's document management,
For the first one, for the first Marshall Elementary.
31150.
If I remember right, our reports that we had earlier, we saw that these expenditures were actually fees being paid to the state. Could we have that back again, please, so we know what the district is paying to the state for all these mandates?
Mr. Dayton, it actually says it. It shows DSA closeout fees under the very top one. And I think it doesn't.
Oh, well,
all-
yes, the first one does say DSA
So,
closeout
but-
classroom upgrade, correct?
But
So
yeah, but document management isn't always DSA fees.
Oh, okay, yeah, but DSA is the division of the state architect for other members. And
Right.
we pay initial fees up front for the permits, but then DSA has two other tier structures that can come into play. One is if the actual construction costs are more than what the architect put in when they submitted, they'll send a supplemental fee. And then sometimes we have projects that maybe were done 5-8 years ago that there was an open issue with DSA and we have to reopen the file and close out that issue on an old legacy project. And I would assume some of these could be that because they're very incidental costs.
Well, I hope they're not several years old, because then they would be classified as a Measure P expenditure, correct?
Well, they're related to the current projects.
Yeah, they wouldn't necessarily. DSA requires that we close out old projects that may not have been closed out prior to certain projects proceeding. So just depending on what that is, like I said, I don't have the, we'd have to look up that particular expenditure to get you the further detail on that.
Any other questions, any committee questions on page 1? Page 2. Any questions on page 2? Page 3. Page 4. Page 5.
Yeah, there's
Yes.
yeah, there's that other cost, again, there in that spread hold. So just pointing that out.
Well, I noticed in that other costs, it says your California financial services total. Is California Financial Services some sort of financial management firm?
So California Financial Services is actually the firm that we use. This is the software. So that's the bond management as far as the reporting. That's what you're looking at here. That's what generated these reports. So this particular expense is part of the spread holding. That 13,500 is for that software.
Okay.
Is that a licensing fee, or is that how is that charged?
Yeah, it's a licensing fee.
Thank you.
Any other questions on page 5?
So Kevin, just to, again, get a little clearer, so what we're looking at here is actually now a different summary, and it's by vendor, as opposed to what we saw above, which was by project. Is that correct?
That is correct, and that's actually what the Oversight Committee, before you were on, asked to have this done, and it has been done by the district.
And from both of those formats that we saw is the same time period, January 1 to 3/31. The colorful one above and this one below are all the same time period.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
That way we could see the contractors and know what the contractors are getting around, including what the projects were on one side, but then what each of the contractors were getting.
Right, and the committee wanted this because it gives us two different ways of looking at information to identify something that might be questionable. Page 6. Any questions? Page 7.
So, no, never mind.
Could we have an explanation of the new vehicles?
We are looking at downtown Ford cells. Is that the,
Yes, we have, it appears to be the purchase of two passenger van and shop trucks.
those are vehicles for our maintenance and operation department. That's utilizing Measure I, Series A, the short-term bond financing.
Of those two pieces of equipment that the school gets to use, which one costs the most?
If you're referring to the two vehicle purchases here, they're both the same amount. They're two identical vehicles. They're
Also,
used
it's like a package deal.
two different vehicles. Yeah, so they're for maintenance and operation. So they may be used by our carpenters, our painters. Yeah,
It's just a simple question.
yeah, no problem.
Do employees, are those parked in the district at night, or do employees get to take those home?
They are left at our district services center
Okay.
overnight.
Any other questions on page 7? Page 8. Who is Hancock Park and DeLong? That's B6 other costs at the top, Hancock Park and DeLong consulting costs.
They're the consultant that helps the district attain funding from the state and does all the paperwork for the Department of Ed and the Office of Public School Construction, of which the district gets reimbursements from projects that they've applied for through the state funding program where they have eligibility.
So this is a firm that knows how to fill out those forms quickly and properly, so you get the match.
Yes.
Understood. Any other questions on page 8? Page 9. Any questions? Page 10. And I'm assuming here for the Monterey High School lower field legal fees. Well, you probably can't answer this question, but I'll ask it like I did earlier. Is this related to environmental review process?
Yeah, there are various legal fees related to projects.
Any questions on page 10? Page 11. Once again, we have here the other cost project planning that it seems like the committee, if possible, if the district could provide a little more detail on what those are because of public concern about some of those small items, that would be helpful.
We'll look into that for you.
Thank you. Page 12. Same issue comes up again here. Page 13. Any questions? Page 14. Just to clarify for the public, we've talked about this before, the advertising for other costs here on the Marina High School Science building and the locker rooms. What kind of advertising does a school district have to use with construction programs?
Public bidding.
Which newspaper is getting that contract, that work?
I think it's the Monterey County Weekly. The Herald may be used sometimes, but I believe it's primarily Monterey County Weekly.
Okay. Any other questions on page 14? Page 15.
Which, I'm sorry, I was just tiling up for the question you're going to ask next. Monterey County Weekly, do you see the heading? So it actually shows the vendor underneath all those.
Oh, there it is. Yep, you're right.
Just letting you know.
Mhm.
Page 15. Any questions? Page 16. Any questions? Page 17. I have a question on the payment to PG&E for EV bus chargers, utility costs. What is that expenditure of $2,500 for?
At the District Services Center, we have retained a grant for buses, electric buses. So we've received some free busing from buses. This is planning with PG&E. We need a service upgrade to accommodate some of the larger charging that's required for the larger buses. So that's what that is for. It's the planning cost with PG&E.
So that is a construction expense and not actually paying for power.
That's correct.
Okay. Any other questions on page 17? Page 18. Any questions? Page 19. Any questions? Page 20. Any questions? Once again, with the there's a paving and traffic, other costs, consulting $155. Always good to try to have more detail on that. There's a few consulting costs there. Page 21.
Actually, Kevin, can I back you up for one small second?
Yeah, to page 20.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
It just, maybe I'm not seeing it right, but it says Marina High School restroom repairs total, but then the description calls it as consulting. Is that how much it costs to talk about it? Or, but then it says restroom repairs total, which gets me confused. What's the cost? Is the cost about the consulting, or is it the repairs plus the consulting?
I can answer that. The project is called Marina High School Restroom Repairs. So that's the total project. That's what the project is. What you're seeing here is just the expenditures for the consulting portion of that. It's not the complete repair cost.
Okay. Okay. I'm sorry. That's why the restroom repairs threw me.
Yeah.
Keep going. Sorry. Go.
I guess people want to know what kind of consulting would be done with restroom repairs.
Be planning, bid specifications, managing the bid process, estimating constructability, plan reviews, placing the advertisements, bringing it to the board for approval, and managing the project. So planning and construction management.
And that kind of work, you gotta pay very close attention to Americans with Disabilities Act type. That's where you get the 1 inch off causing trouble.
Yep. Yeah.
So it can be a very costly mistake. All right, good. It's good to have the public aware of what kind of expenditures that come up with that. Any other questions on page 20? Page 21. Monterey High School lower field is up here again. Is this related to environmental review?
It may be. I'm not 100% sure on that particular expense, but it could be.
Any other questions on page 21? Page 22. Any questions? Page 23.
I have a question. I do have a question, but I literally have like 3 more things to title in. Hold on, give me a break. Give me 1 moment. I'm on.
Sure. We'll really focus on page 23 here while you do that.
Just because. Okay, I just hope I don't mess myself up. All right, let me get to 20. Let me get to page, which is 43 on the thing. There's going to be one little. What was it? And now I'm going to make you guys wait. Now I don't remember my question. Hold on. I'm sorry. I don't see it now, and I've been doing numbers, so I think I probably answered my own question because I know why the totals look different at some odd amounts, and I've figured out the report completely. I'm sorry. I think I understand what my question was, and I've figured it out. So I apologize for the delay.
No problem. Great. Any questions on page 23? Page 24. Any questions? Page 25. It's always good to have consistency. I see, for example, for the 0258264 description as architect, and then for 0548226, it says architect costs. Are they the same? Or is this something different? I don't know. So it's always good to have consistent descriptions. Any questions on that page? Page 26.
I have a question on page 26, Kevin.
Yes.
On all the other pages, I'm at 0558243 Monterey High School Lower Field. And I don't know why there's all of a sudden a grand total where there weren't grand totals in the other schemes. And it would, why the 3.68 million is there.
That's the
This-
same error. That's Kevin. That's the same
Yeah.
error that we had on the last report. So if you go below, if you scroll down so where I can see where you're at, because that's part of it. So you're hold on one sec. Let me get to it.
I agree. That's the same mistake as before. For some reason, on the second to last entry, grand total is appearing.
So what they're not, so I can tell you what the error is. They're not, let me just double check because I've been tallying up numbers and making sure that was gonna be your next question. So what ends up happening is that they bundle up. I'm almost there. If you'll note, so if there's multiple, if a vendor has multiple different projects, I guess, Monterey High School Lower Field or Seaside High School Sports Field, then you have total, then you have a grand total that usually tallies them up. This grand total is just incorrect. It's grand totaling the wrong item. It's just the wrong formula versus all of the other different expenditures within that particular vendor. This is the only error that I found on the report going back all those ways. My numbers match up to the very bit, that grand total of $3,600,000 or 600 and whatever, $8,000. It adds up. There's a lot of numbers to tally up, which I was doing when we were going through. So that was the only one that the grand total is not grand totaling the vendor, it's grand totaling the whole segment. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
And I don't know why. That happened in the last one too.
Yep.
Why is it that in the second to last entry, for some reason, it produces the grand total that should be the grand total for everything at the end? It's some sort of glitch in the software.
Yes, it appears to be an issue with how the reports are generated out of the software. So we'll work with the company to get that corrected.
But yeah, we got to avoid that because people will say, well, you've already spent $3.6 million on the lower field at Monterey High School. And that shouldn't be there. But that's not correct because that's a glitch in the system.
Yeah, but it tallies up. That was a lot of numbers to tally up, but that's how I figured out why those grand totals and what they were bubbling up. And I think that was my previous.
Thank you for taking the time to add that up. That's great information to know that the charts are accurate.
Well, I figure that might be the public's next question because we had it on their previous, so I was trying to preempt.
Yes.
Thanks for adding that up, Dawn.
You're welcome. That was rough.
Are there any other committee comments on item H, review warrant activity for Measure I, January 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2021? And actually, that on the agenda should say March 31st, 2021, I believe. Any questions? Are there any public comments?
Yes, I have one.
Mr. Chair, you have one public comment.
My comment is actually on my last couple of sets of comments.
Well, let's get the timer going. You may speak for 3 minutes. Heidi, if you could set the timer. Go ahead.
You heard after the last item, you heard from staff say that the committee is not required to respond to public comments. Let's make something clear. When there are general public comments under item B on your agenda, you are generally not allowed to comment or respond, except in certain specific ways. You can certainly ask staff to get more information, or say you want to put it on a later agenda. So you can do minor, brief, non-substantive responses like that. However, on public comments, on agenda items, the typical practice, the standard practice, the appropriate practice, the best practice is to listen to the questions and to respond to them. What you have just done, what this committee has done for the last set of comments on each of the items is ignore them, not ask for clarification, and move on immediately to the next agenda item. That approach speaks volumes. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment, and fortunately this is recorded, so you'll see that actually we have been responding to your comments, although we don't need to answer them. And we've heard from staff saying that they will get back to us on certain answers that they weren't able to do. So a good thing this is recorded. And we do have an attorney here. Does any committee member have any questions about this particular issue? All right, moving on to item I, review, receive annual report for 2019-2020 fiscal year.
Okay, Mr. Chair, would you like me to just kind of give a brief overview of what this document is, and then proceed through the document to see if there's any kind of corrections or things you would like us to make, or changes you would like us to make for the final document that will be brought back to the committee at the next COC meeting.
Sounds good to me. That's a good
Okay.
plan. Does any committee member have other thoughts about that?
Ryan Tremaine here. I had expected that we would receive the audits to go over with at the same time as this annual report, so that we would maybe have questions or corrections. And that was supposed to come to us, right? Was it March 31st? The performance audit and the financial audit. I don't know that the performance is as important for this measure, but I mean, for this agenda item. But will that come to us before the next time we see this report?
We can get the committee members, if you would like, we can get a copy of the bond performance and financial audits. They were taken to the board and approved. So we can provide that information for you as well. We can also bring them back to you prior to the next committee, or on the agenda for the next committee, if the board or the committee would choose.
Can we get them before the next meeting so we have the time to compare those to the annual report?
Yes, we can send those out to you.
Thank you.
All right, go ahead, Ryan, about the annual report to the board.
Okay. So what you were reviewing previously was quarter financial activity for the bond program. What the annual report is, it's an accumulation of that fiscal year. So it's all of the quarters for that fiscal year combined into one annual report. As a Citizens Oversight Committee, the report that you review tonight, this will be your report. So please feel free to look at it, make changes, make some suggestions, and we'll try to accommodate as many of those as we can. This report ultimately will go to the board for their review as well. And the purpose of this report is, like I said, to accumulation of all of the fiscal activity for the 1920 school year, fiscal year. The reason why it's always happening in the past is because we're currently in the 2021 fiscal year. So after this report is done, we'll start working, and as soon as the fiscal year closes, which will be June 30th of this year, we'll start working on the 2021 fiscal report.
Well, looking at that, you're providing the board with the same type of format that's being given to the Oversight Committee, where it's classified in two different ways for people to both see expenditures by project and expenditures based on where the expenditures are going. I know that the board appreciates this particular format as well as we do. Do committee members have any questions about this?
Tremaine again here. So in some of my research again, it seems to me that what best practice includes is a compliance opinion that is drafted up by committee members. That, you know, we rely heavily on the staff to compile this annual report, but the part that we're supposed to add which again, wouldn't happen until we have the audited financials, is to include an annual compliance opinion. And there's state legal requirements that would go into that. And there's a template that's used by the schools that are following best practice. So I'm just wondering if there's a way we can do that in our committee as well.
Yes, it would be appropriate if the committee would like to do so, to provide a letter or some sort of narrative to the annual report. Traditionally, the chair of the board has addressed, the chair of the committee has addressed the board when this goes before the school board. And I believe, Mr. Dayton, you did that for the last annual report. But absolutely, if the committee would like, you could include some narrative at the front of the document that outlines your comments with the document.
So Kevin, I do have a template that's often used to spring from. It's just 2 pages. Is that something you'd like me to send to you to help you compile? Would you want me to work with you on that, or how do you see that work getting done?
Probably the best thing to do would be to send that to Ryan, and then I can take that and look at it. My guess is, although we are an independent oversight committee, I'm going to guess that the public relations department of the school district will want to take a look at it as well. And we'll probably, if we want to go beyond, I'm not sure what the text of that particular letter is, but if we want to go beyond just basic boilerplate saying we looked this over and they're in compliance, we would probably have to have the committee approve something at the next meeting. When did you plan, Ryan, to have this be presented to the board, school board?
There is no firm date. We will take it as soon as the committee feels that the annual report is how you would like it to be presented to the board. We meet every quarter. If we meet again, I believe our next meeting is August 4th. If we come to an agreement, if the committee comes to an agreement and they want to finalize their report to the board, we will take it subsequently, probably sometime either later in August or September.
My feeling is, with some members of the public being critical of the construction program, maybe it would be good for us to look this over and bring it back with perhaps a letter explaining what the committee has been, what our thinking is in terms of why this is in the format that it is in. And inviting the public to take a look at the expenditures to confirm that we're doing the correct job. And I'll pass that out to the committee. I'm not sure what the school board wants. I know we have a couple of board members who will look this over line by line and ask questions, and they always do every year. But it also might be good to have a statement from us talking about our philosophy and thinking behind how we do the analysis of these expenditures every quarter. So I'll ask committee members what you think of that.
Would you review what the process is? Do we vote on this, Kevin, to approve this and then it goes to the board because we've approved it, or?
Well, I'm not even sure. Is this something, Ryan, that's even required under the education code, or are we just doing this as a report? Because I know we have the 2 audits that are submitted for each fiscal year to the board, and that's required under law. Is an annual report like this, is this in the education code? Maybe Devin could answer that question.
Yes, this is a requirement. So in the technical terms, the Citizens Oversight Committee is required only to meet once a year. Now, this committee goes above and beyond that, and they meet multiple times a year to make sure they're reviewing the documents. As part of that, the annual report to the board is part of that process. The front end document that we're referring to is not is not a requirement of the report. That's optional. The compliance opinion, I think, is what we're referring to.
Right. I'm thinking now, this is where some school districts, their committee puts out a 1 or 2 page puff piece. And this is definitely a lot more detailed than what they do, because the line items are actually indicated here. So you know what? Maybe it would be good to hold off on this and have some introductory language and actually see what some of the other school districts have been doing when they have the annual report presented to the school board. And that might actually be useful as a school board deals with the public concerning whether or not the expenditures are appropriate or not.
Is this educational code mentioned in the bylaws when I first joined the COC? Or is this something I can Google so I can understand a little bit more about what you're talking about?
It is, and we can also send it to you as well if you would like.
I'll just do my homework. That's cool.
Yep. All right. So is the feeling of the committee is we will not take any action on this, and we'll look at a revised document at our next meeting.
Should we be giving our comments after looking at the audit to Ryan before the meeting? Next meeting?
Comments on the audit?
Yeah, like once.
This is not the audit, this is the annual report.
I understand that, but once we get the audit, that's really what tells us that these are not just a bunch of numbers, that these are actually all in the right categories and from the right accounts, etc. So if we should be each individually looking at our audit, compare it to this report, and send Ryan any questions or concerned at some date before the next meeting so that he can make changes?
Are we allowed under the Brown Act to suppose Ryan sends to us what they have for the 2 audits with this, along with the bylaws and the education code, then each committee member can look at those 5 documents, compare them as necessary so that we're prepared for the next meeting. Is this something that we can do?
If you would like to independently review the annual report and the audits, you're welcome to do so, and then we can agendize that at the August 4th Citizens Oversight Committee, and we can have a discussion around it then if you would like.
Sure, it sounds to me like committee members are interested. Is this something we should do? We should have Ryan do?
One more quick
And
question. Ryan, does this not taking action on the annual report currently, is that hinder any issues with timing? I'm assuming not, but I just want to make sure. Is that if we look at them side by side and get together August 4th and go from there, we're all good with timing and what's needed?
Yeah, so this evening, it's really just to review the first pass of the annual report. So this wasn't for your approval or to submit to the school board tonight. So this was really just the first pass for you to review it, provide some input. We can bring this back for further review to the COC committee, and we can agendize that so that we'll review it again, if there are any further changes, we can do so. And then we can bring it back at the November 3rd meeting for your final approval for submission to the school board.
I have pulled up the education code regarding its education code section 15278 to 15282. And I'm looking at this right now. First, it says the Citizens Oversight Committee may engage in any of the following activities, which is notable. It doesn't say shall. And it says receiving and reviewing copies of the annual independent performance audit required in another section of law, receiving and reviewing copies of the annual independent financial audit required in another section of law. And keep in mind, those aren't an annual report. And I actually don't see here where it says there must be an annual report. Let me look at the next section here.
I can pull that up for you as well.
What's really what's required by law is the annual independent financial and performance audits. And obviously the law encourages it, saying may, but it doesn't require it. Well, it does here say the Citizens Oversight Committee shall issue regular reports on the results of activities. A report shall be issued at least once a year. That could be interpreted as what this annual report is. But if we want to really follow the spirit of that law, it does sound like we want to have some sort of letter talking about our activities and what we're intending to do.
Right, and in the I believe these are the bylaws. The section 3.3 of the bylaws, it outlines the annual report. The committee shall issue and present to the board in public session annual written report.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's in our bylaws, then it is mandated.
And can I just get clarification about when you would be able to send us all those materials, Ryan?
At the end of the week.
Yeah, we will get them to you. I'm looking at Heidi. You can't see that, but Heidi will get them over to all of you by the end of the week.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
So just to clarify, Ryan is going to send us audit information so that we can compare it to the annual report. And then we're going to come back at our next meeting and discuss and see if there's any changes that need to be made to the annual report. Is my understanding correct on that?
I will even get more specific. I believe what we're asking them to do is, in addition to the annual report draft, which we already have, they're going to provide us with the annual independent performance audit for this time period,
Right.
the annual independent financial audit for this time period, a copy of the bylaws, which you can find on the website too, and a copy of the relevant education code for what oversight committees do. I also think it would be useful, and I can help with this, Ryan, if you don't have this already. It would be good to see examples of what other comparable school districts do with their annual reports, because we might be able to get some good ideas out of that rather than starting from scratch. Because we haven't done this before in terms of having at least not while I've been on the committee, of explaining to the board and the public what exactly we intend to do out of all this and how we go about it. I think I've told the board whenever I speak before them about oversight committees, about how we do what we do tonight is spend time going page by page at each expenditure under different categories to confirm that nothing there is not conforming to what's in the bond measures that passed. But we should have it also in writing too. And we should also probably include in there the limitations of what the committee does, that we are not a policy making body. We are also not professional auditors either. That's what the that's what the audits are about.
Kevin, I have a annual report from the Contra Costa School District that has been lauded as one of the better examples. I'd be happy to send that to you.
Sure. Is that a CalBOC, California Bond Oversight Committee Association?
That was one I actually read about in a news article. I have to look for the actual opinion, but I read about it in a news article.
Yeah, why don't we have that included in the package that Ryan sends out to the Oversight Committee?
So I'll send it to Ryan.
Yes, please send it to me and we'll make sure that gets to everybody. And just as a rule of thumb, make sure you copy me and Heidi in on that. She'll make sure it happens, that everybody gets it. And we'll also provide some additional information regarding that as well.
And I will include that template too to you, Ryan, just so you have a look at it. And if you think it's valuable, you could send it on to, I'll copy Kevin on that too, so he has a look at it.
Now, this is good. And also, as I've mentioned before, we should, committee members are encouraged to watch school board meetings, especially when it comes to the construction program issues, and see how the board, what questions the board is asking, get an idea of whether the board is paying attention, that sort of thing. Are there any other committee comments before we go to public comment about item I, receive the annual report for 2019-20 fiscal year? Are there any other?
There's no public comment.
No public comment? Okay, thank you. All right, Jay, future meeting dates for 2021. Does anybody have any issues regarding August 4th, 2021 and November 3rd, 2021?
I will not be able to make November 3rd. I will be out of town for that whole week.
Thank you. We'll make a note of that.
Thank you.
Is there any chance that we could meet in person on the November 3 date?
I certainly hope so, but that's not, unfortunately, I don't think that's our decision. I know I heard from Heidi that the school district still isn't open. The administration headquarters still isn't open to the public.
By appointment only.
Yeah, but guidance is changing rapidly on that, so it's very likely.
Right.
Yeah, we might be in the yellow tier on May 12th. So, at some point, when enough people are vaccinated, there's going to have to be some decisions made about returning to, the meeting in person, which I think is in many ways good for public access. Item K, are there any committee member comments?
I do have one if no other committee members have any. I just wanted to let you know, Ethlyn Thomas was unable to participate today because she just recently got out of the hospital. Otherwise, she would have been present, but she does expect to be here for our August 4th meeting.
Sure. Can we have some sort of notation in the minutes that it's an excused absence?
Yes, sir.
Excellent. Any other comments? All right, at 6:58 p.m., our meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Ryan,
Thank you all
staff,
for coming.
committee members.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Have a great night.
All right, you too.
Thank you. Excellent.
All right, bye.